Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast, episode 96. We are in fall. We're actually, summer's over, officially over, and we are now in fall and all the things that come with it. Football season is here. Giants had an amazing comeback victory. I'm still not super optimistic about their chances this year, but it was a good game. They're playing tonight. This is Thursday, so they're playing San Francisco tonight. It's going to be a tough one. College football has been very exciting. I'm actually someone who never really follows college football. I watched it the last couple of years, just especially during like COVID when there was not much going on. So I started watching a little bit more college football, during like the latter part of COVID. And I've been following Deion Sanders, Coach Primetime. It's such an amazing story, and I excitedly watch every game. The game last week was incredible, double overtime win. I really thought they were going to lose, but that last drive was incredible to tie it, and an amazing overtime victory. Got a tough one this week against Oregon, but I'm excited to watch it. Coach Primetime always brings it, and you had a great 60 minutes interview. I hope you were able to catch that. If not, I'm sure you could catch it on YouTube somewhere. But he's an inspiring guy. He's got a let's get it mindset. Someone who I really admire. My admiration for him is growing and growing the more I learn about him. So that's kind of where we're at. Today's podcast, I'm actually going to be talking about something in the dermatology world, something that I've spoken about before, but I'm going to actually take like a different angle on it. So I'm going to talk about Botox today. I'm specifically going to be talking about bad Botox. And I'll tell you what inspired me. I was on the treadmill doing some low-intensity fasted cardio after I lifted this morning. And there's really nothing to watch. The Noon Sports Center has actually, they don't have it here in New York anymore. That's like there's some other show that's on there, something that I really wasn't interested in watching. So I ended up watching the local news, and the newscaster, and this is something I actually see pretty frequently. I see it in the real world amongst people existing in the world. I see it in some of my patients who do not see me for Botox or have gone somewhere else. And I see it on TV a lot. And the newscaster she clearly had Botox done, but what was happening with her face was the lower part of her forehead looked great, no wrinkles, wasn't moving at all. But the top half of her forehead, every time she would make an expression, would move. And so she basically had like a partial Botox treatment, and it didn't look great. And I see this a lot. I see this with a lot of folks on TV. I'm going to walk you through what constitutes good Botox and what constitutes bad Botox. Certainly, if you're going to be taking the plunge and getting Botox, you want to make sure you have the good kind, not the bad kind. So the first step is who is administering your Botox. So I'm a big believer in a board-certified dermatologist or plastic surgeon. Those should be the folks that are giving you Botox. Those are folks who are expert in facial anatomy, know the pharmacology of Botox, can help with any potential pitfalls that may occur. Just are expert in the delivery of Botox. Now, there's a lot of other folks out there that do administer Botox. I mean, I'm not sure who would do this, but some folks say they go to their dentist for Botox. I mean, I'm sure I could learn how to fill a cavity or pull a tooth, but you certainly don't want to come to a dermatologist for your dental care. Not sure why you'd go to a dentist for cosmetic procedures like Botox, but it's out there, and I think it's crazy. But really, when you get Botox, you really want to get it done by a board-certified dermatologist or plastic surgeon. There's other doctors out there that call themselves cosmetic doctors, and these are typically doctors who have absolutely zero training in dermatology or plastic surgery, but are like family docs or internal medicine docs or anesthesiologists, and they take some like weekend course and they learn how to do some cosmetic procedures, and then they call themselves cosmetic docs. I think that's charlatanism. I think you should really tell your patients what you're trained in, what you're board certified in. A lot of these folks on their websites will say things like, get your treatment by a board certified doctor. But when you dig a little deeper, you find out they're not actually board certified in what they're practicing. They're board certified in some other field, which is also crazy. Med spas, I think, should by and large be avoided as well. A lot of times it's like a cosmetic nurse practitioner or a PA or something like that may not be working under the auspices of a plastic surgeon or dermatologist, maybe some other kind of doctor that runs this med spa, and they don't really have any adequate training on administering Botox. I mean, it's a different story if that nurse practitioner or PA works under a dermatologist, is trained by a dermatologist, knows the ins and outs of using Botox or whatever other cosmetic procedures they may do. But you have to really be careful. So step one is figure out who your provider is, what kind of training they have, and if they really know what they're doing. Step two is, and I see this actually in a lot of folks who are trained, there are board certified dermatologists and plastic surgeons who administer Botox, but the way that a lot of us were taught to do Botox actually makes absolutely no sense. So typically when we're taught to do Botox, I mean, this is like 20 years ago. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't teach anyone how to do Botox this way, but I think it's still out there. Folks are generally taught that Botox is essentially administered in 3 locations. It's administered, for the lines between the eyes, which are the glabellar lines or the 11s. You could put a couple of shots of Botox around that area to, mitigate those wrinkles that are there. Another area is the forehead, so the lines of your forehead, kind of when you raise your brow. You can treat those lines with Botox. And then the crow's feet, which are the lines that are around the eyes. Those are like the 3 classic places where Botox is used. It's used in other places as well by more advanced injectors. It can be used at the chin, it can be used around the lips, it can be used on the neck, it can be used to soften the traps. But the sort of conventional places to treat Botox are the muscles around the eyes, which are the crow's feet, the glabella, which are the lines that are between your eyes, and then the forehead wrinkles. So when we're taught to do Botox, so folks will generally, they'll set up some sort of pricing schedule or fee schedule. Will say, well, if we treat one area, it's X amount of dollars. If we treat 2 areas, it's X amount of dollars. If we treat 3 areas, it's X amount of dollars. So they basically break up their treatments by the area that's treated. And this never made sense to me because, very, very, very early on, and I learned how to do Botox this way. 20 something years ago, we were all taught to do Botox this way. But yeah, I've been doing Botox on some patients since I was a resident, some family members like my mother-in-law, my wife, that sort of stuff when I was learning how to do it. And I would do Botox on them and, I'd treat one area, which is what I was told to do by the professors that were teaching me how to do it. And I would see my wife or my mother-in-law a week later and everything looked cool here if I injected this area. But when they'd moved, only their forehead would move. And I was like, wow, that looks really terrible. That makes absolutely no sense. So very early on in my career, I decided that I'm not going to do Botox by area. It makes no sense because I'm going to have patients walking around, my patients, who are going to have these partially expressive faces, which is, it's obvious, first of all, that you've had Botox, and it just looks horrible. So all of the muscles of the upper face, the muscles between the eyes, the muscles of the forehead, and the muscles around the eyes, they all work synergistically. They're all kind of, the microfibers of these muscles are all interconnected. And the only way to properly use Botox and to do it in an aesthetically appropriate way where someone's not going to know that my patient did Botox, but they'll know that there's something different about them. Hey, you just look like a refreshed version of yourself. Looks like you just got back from vacation, or, did you have an amazing, relaxing weekend? That's really the goal of any non-invasive cosmetic procedure. You want folks to look like a more refreshed version of who they are. You want them to look weird or different. So, things we'll see sometimes in bad Botox is someone will move and just the lateral part of their eyebrows will move up like that, kind of this weird Spock eyebrow. Or if you inject the forehead, treat the forehead lines, and I do have some patients that ask me to do that. I don't do that for the reason I'm about to tell you. But if you just treat the forehead lines, you can get a very flat brow, which looks weird. And I never just treat the crow's feet alone. So when you come to me for Botox, it's a full Botox treatment, namely because I want to make sure that you look the best you possibly can and that you're going to love your treatment. So that's, good Botox is when you look like a refreshed version of exactly who you are. Bad Botox is when your muscles of your face move in weird ways, and it's obvious that you've had Botox. It's like a tell that you've had Botox. And for me, when I see that, it's a tell that you've had bad Botox. And the other thing I want to talk about with Botox, and this is something that a lot of my patients ask me for as well. So when I do Botox on my patients, yes, the muscles are paralyzed and you will not be as expressive as you were, but no one really can tell that you've had Botox. It's just again, you just look like a really refreshed, refined version of yourself. But folks will ask me, hey, I just want to do a little bit of Botox, just just a little tiny bit. And I get where they're coming from. They don't want to look like crazy version of themselves. But Botox is like a threshold effect. You either jump into the pool or you don't. You can't like partially paralyze the muscle. Like this concept of baby Botox is total bullshit. Really, the goal is to paralyze the muscles of facial expression so you're not creating wrinkles. That's how Botox works as a preventive cosmetic treatment. If you paralyze the muscles of facial expression before you have lines at rest, you won't have lines at rest. If you use Botox for folks who already have existing lines at rest, it will soften the lines that are there, but more importantly, it'll keep them from getting worse. That's how Botox works. You want to paralyze those muscles of facial expressions to either prevent lines or to keep existing lines from progressing and getting deeper. So this concept of baby Botox is basically you're just injecting a sub-therapeutic level of Botox that's not really doing anything. It's not paralyzing the muscles, you can't really paralyze a muscle a little bit. And even if you paralyze the muscle a little bit, but you're still moving those muscles, it's not really preventing wrinkles, right? So Botox should be sort of an all or none type treatment. All of the areas should be treated at the same time, namely the forehead, the glabella, and the crow's feet. That's how you get the most aesthetically appropriate and pleasing result. And you should also be very wary of who is injecting your Botox. Ideally, you want a board-certified plastic surgeon or dermatologist to be doing it, because those are the folks who are experts in doing it. We have years and years and years of experience. We didn't take some weekend course at like the Holiday Inn and learn how to do Botox, which a lot of other quote-unquote cosmetic providers have done. So if you have any questions about Botox, please drop them in the comments below. We'll fire off like a hashtag Ask Dr. Mudgil style video and answer them. I hope you all have a wonderful, restful weekend and are just ready to crush the week ahead. Let's get it.